Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of the Wisdom Save podcast. I'm Ken.
I'm Hannah.
And today, as we mentioned in last week's episode, first of all, hope you all had a great Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you all stayed 6 or more feet, 6 feet to thousands of miles away from your family,
Mm-hmm.
and that nobody is sick. But otherwise, we hope it was a very productive Thanksgiving. With that out of the way, and moving into the frigid winter months of December, we thought maybe we'd warm you all up with a slice of pie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, still Thanksgiving themed, honestly.
Still a little
Leftover pie.
Yeah. This is leftover pie. We're slicing what was left of the pie that has not been served in the previous episode. Are we liking these metaphors? Are we digging the metaphors? Because I could do this all day.
Am I digging them? Are we going to continue to do them?
Perfect.
Maybe.
That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so in all reality, as mentioned before, our Slice of Color Pie series is one we're going to be continuing with. Sort of a brainchild of mine where we tap into some interesting figures or characters and kind of delve into what aspects of the color pie or the 5-color philosophy reflects in those characters or individuals. We are continuing with the series that we halfway finished last time, picking up with, I guess now it's not so much just the Wyrmtamers, it's Wyrmtamers and Kin.
Yeah, Wyrmtamers and Wyrmtamer babies.
Yeah, the main party members from our
And
previous
Percy.
campaign. Oh yeah, well we did Percy in the last episode. We got him out of the way.
He was a bonus.
He was an extra special treat for our early listeners. Yeah, so we're just going to pick up with this one, doing a little color pie analysis of the remainder of the Wyrmtamer members, as well as some of the children that some of you were introduced with as full-fledged characters in our episode where we did Smash or Pass with the characters from Out of the Abyss.
That really was their first formal introduction to them, wasn't it?
Isn't it fitting in a way?
Yeah, but
not really. But whatever.
I mean, kinda, but also no.
Yeah. So, without any further ado, we'll just jump right into it, since I'm assuming this will be watched as a continuation, or listened to, I should say, as a continuation of our previous episode. And in our previous episode...
Because if you haven't watched the previous episode, you should probably watch the previous episode.
Oh, yeah, if you haven't, please go back and listen to the previous episode, because we're going to just be jumping right in, halfway through a discussion topic that we literally started previously.
Yeah.
In that one, there is also a quick rundown again of how the color philosophy works, what each of the colors mean. I'm going to assume that everyone listening already knows that, and so we're going to go from there.
Watch both or skip both.
Right, yeah. If this is something you're not really interested in, then skip it. That's totally fine. Especially since it's specifically related to our D&D characters. But the intent of this is to give you an idea of what the different colors mean when they're reflected on the different character archetypes.
Well, plus lots of these characters have been discussed throughout previous episodes, and even if you haven't watched all of the previous episodes to really get a grip on them, it's this is probably where you'll kind of get a grip of their motivations anyway.
Yeah, this is where you kind of learn a little bit about the deep-seated stuff, the stuff that drives them, these characters. Since we only have really 6 Wyrmtamers left, we'll pick right up with, as I had mentioned in the previous episode, the 3-color gallery. Because the next 4 characters we're going to be talking about, I have decided,
are 3-color?
Are all 3-color, which in itself is a big rarity. I think, what was it? We decided that pretty much just Geth and Unity, the past one, were 3-color.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. You didn't tell me.
Yeah, we had a whole discussion about it.
I mean, if you did, I don't remember it.
It was 2 weeks ago for you, many weeks ago for us, a sneak behind the curtain of the recording process. Yeah. But anyway.
Honestly, I don't remember anything we talked about in the first episode, except for some of the motivations of Holly, but that's because we talk about them continuously, so.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, someone's not listening to me.
It's not that I'm not listening, it's just
I'm just dragging.
It's my red, I don't give a fuck.
Right. I don't care. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. It's like, I don't care about the philosophy behind it all. I just know how they do things,
Yeah.
and I know how I feel
Well,
about it.
also, it's fascinating to listen to.
Right.
But am I going to waste my very minimal brain space on remembering what colors everybody are, or what colors you thought they were, or like who might be 3-color? No.
That's why we recorded it.
Yeah.
So you can listen to it. That way, if you ever need to refer to it, you got it.
They might be dead. I don't care.
Thankfully, none of them. Well, some of them aren't dead.
Some of them aren't dead. Oh, our kids?
Oh, I'm talking about the previous episode. We talk about Asher.
Oh, Asher's dead.
I'm so sorry.
I love him.
Yeah, he's a very good
And
boy.
he's dead.
He's a very dead boy. Anyway, so we'll pick right up with the
I
first.
made fun of you and you got me back.
Yeah, see, that's what happens. I waited and picked my moment to strike. He shall be missed. Rest in pepperonis.
Ah! Okay, go ahead.
Ooh, the fucking audio's mic on that one. Okay. Anyway, so we'll start with Kellen.
Oh, we're doing Kellen?
Yeah, we're gonna start with Kellen. I figured we'd start with my characters since we started with Melisandre last time.
Okay.
Um, so Kellen is the youngest member of the Wyrmtamers as a group.
When we picked him up, wasn't he 15 years old?
He was 15 at the 15 going on 16 at the very beginning.
He's obviously not anymore.
He ended the campaign at the age of 17, and where we are now in our storyline, he's 33.
Mm-hmm. That's an age gap.
Oh yeah, the 16-year time skip really did it to him. But he was at the time still is, but he's the youngest member of the Wyrmtamers. He was nothing more than a half-elven teenage boy born into noble stock who never really quite felt like he fit in or really belonged with either side of his family, and was just kind of seeking some sort of greater purpose while having his life flavored by the responsibilities of the nobility that he spent his time with, while being like a free-spirited, wily, rambunctious young man who was just looking for the next adventure. He is a sorcerer, and he draws his power from a deep storm giant ancestry through his mother's family line, which meant that he had a mastery over the power of storms. He could control. He was a naturally skilled illusionist. He could control little aspects of the weather. He could control the stars even at a later point when he got some of his higher level spells.
Mm-hmm.
But for all intents and purposes, he was just a sprightly teenage boy who found out he had lightning superpowers and then just kind of rolled with it.
Yeah.
So as for his color, I went back and forth a little bit on where I think each of his colors were, but the one I did the least was his primary color.
Did you say that you thought he was 3 colors?
I do think he's 3 colors. His primary color was the easiest. The other 2 colors I was like, on.
Is it blue?
Oh no. He's like super red. He's like one of the most red characters we have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kellen's primary motivation in life is experience.
Mm-hmm.
Kellen lives to do. He lives to feel, he lives to see, he lives to adventure. He wants to go off and hang out with these powerful older people and do whatever fun, interesting things he can do with them. He's spontaneous. He's creative, but not in a logical creative sense, but in just like a gut instinct kind of like, I got to do something to help these people out. So here's this.
Uh-huh.
When all else fails, throw lightning. He's very passionate about the things that he believes in. He is willing to take risks and even risk himself if it means that the people that he cares about are protected and safe. And all of these are red or borderline red traits. And I think those last 2 especially brush up against his other 2 colors particularly strongly. So he's primarily red, I think. Secondary, when it really comes down to it, I think he's white.
White?
Yeah. White, the color of like.
A white man! No!
He is technically a white man. White is more, I guess, the color of like civilization and peace and order, which doesn't super seem like him. He kind of grew up in like high society and never really felt like he fit in with it. He doesn't really have a strong connection to the community that his family grew up in. He doesn't have a strong connection to like protecting his people or creating a peaceful community for his people because he doesn't necessarily have a people. He has his loved ones, he has his friends, he has his companions. Where I think he is red white is kind of an interesting aspect of red white that comes up a lot in different interpretations of that color alignment, and especially in the actual in Magic the game itself. Um, Red and white are the colors that clash the most in general because they are the most of any of the enemy color pairs, the most diametrically opposed. White at its extreme believes that the sacrifice of any one individual's personal desires is completely acceptable and in fact preferable if it means that the individuals who make up the society have a general peace. If they can all live in harmony and safety, protected from danger, then it doesn't matter if they aren't free. That's taken to its extreme. Red is the opposite. Red is restricting my ability to experience life the way I want to, restricting my passions and my freedoms is in its way its own damning tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be better for people to be in danger but able like from time to time, not constantly in danger, but like for danger to exist, for there to not necessarily always be peace, if it means that people get to explore the life they want to live and live free.
Right.
Those two things cannot really intertwine with each other. They don't cross. You can't have a society that is restricted but peaceful and also unrestricted but chaotic.
Right.
It doesn't work. Where red and white intertwine is when one color, slightly winning out over the other, uses the methods of the other color to achieve their goals, usually in a time when both approaches are needed to succeed. When it comes down to it, what Kellen wants more than anything is to be a hero. He wants to be someone that people can look up to and respect, but not because he's an authority figure, but because he's someone that they can trust and he's someone that they know will keep them safe. He tries his best to help people when they go from place to place. He tries his best to suss out what evil is and destroy it or cause it some sort of slowdown. And he does this by leaning on his red, his ultimate goal being freedom, and playing into white's aspects of community organization, of coming together to achieve a greater peace. Kellen's thought process is, if I can work hard and work together with my found family, with the people that I am together with my adventuring guild. We can work together, and maybe we don't always make the best decisions. Maybe we don't always agree, but we're working together as one cohesive unit. And our end goal is to bring freedom to those who are in tyranny, to stop the cult of the dragon, to like liberate all these destroyed villages, to help heal people who are broken and damaged. That's the goal that he has. And especially seeing the two extremes in his own parents. The land that his mother ruled over was she took a very hands-off approach to the rulership of her lands and her city-state that she ruled over. And in doing so, the people there were kind of more free, but corruption seeped in very easily, and she didn't have a good reign over. She kind of just sat back and let everybody take care of themselves, and they got themselves into a lot of trouble a lot of times. That city was struggling a lot under the iron rule of people who took charge in the time when she was absent. And he kind of grew up watching her just kind of take a very Marie Antoinette approach to it. Like, oh, they're starving, just give them food. Like, it shouldn't be a problem. And like not really taking the actual moment to bond with and lead her people. He saw that as a failing. And that's kind of a failing in her as well. He doesn't really, he's not close to her because she doesn't really like take the time to focus on him.
Well, he's closer with her than he is with his dad.
He is. His father, on the other hand, is the white taken to an extreme. He is very much like, I'm going to be this staunch, rigid leader, and I will command people to my side, and they'll listen and obey me. And as long as they do exactly what I say, everything will be safe because I can protect them.
Probably drove him nuts when he had to work for Raffi, though.
Oh, well, yeah.
We haven't talked about Raffi yet.
Right, yeah, but eventually Kellen's father would have to end up like being marshaled under Raffi in the final battle of that drove him fucking nuts because he's got like a big Napoleonic leadership complex.
Mm-hmm.
He always looked down on Kellen because he thought Kellen was careless and spriteful, just like his mother was. Their marriage being kind of an arrangement of noble houses for the benefit of both of their lands. But neither of them really particularly liked each other that much.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came down to it, he kind of saw Kellen as like careless, unpredictable, and just more trouble than he was worth. Kellen looked at both of these approaches and saw that while each of them was attempting to do something to better their people, or were in a position to do so, both of them took it too far and ultimately failed to do what they intended to do.
Right.
So Kellen kind of tries to take that approach where it's not necessarily in the center, but it's take the best parts of both things and then try to come up with a new thing where, they don't need to respect or fear me. They need to know they can rely on me.
Right.
And that in itself is a very red-white approach to solving problems. I want them to live their life free, like other people to live their life free, and I want them to know they can rely on me to bring that to them. But I'm not going to be their savior. I'm not going to be their leader or their commander. I'm going to be a face at the head of the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
A good example of like a red-white political movement in our modern day, to give you an example of that. Basically the entire like Bernie Sanders campaign,
mm-hmm.
And like Sanders runs for president and his movements to attempt to kind of like move the American government like further left in a more progressive platform. A very red-white approach, more red than white.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the same angle Kellen takes, but in like a myth, in a medieval fantasy setting. And also he's a 17-year-old boy, so he doesn't have the same political clout. But he tries. He can throw lightning. I don't think Bernie Sanders can do that.
Well, I mean, he ended up being on the council where Holly lives.
Right, and I think that's actually where the third color comes in. He's very strongly red-white. I ended up settling on this. There was another color that I think comes in later that I was going back and forth with for white, but I think that fits in. Once the adventure was done, that's usually the weirdest part for red white.
Mm-hmm.
Red white is fervent. Red white has a cause, it has a goal, and it's seeking to always achieve that goal, like full-headedly. For Kellen, it was all about, I want to be a hero. I want to save people. I want to protect people. I want to stop this evil. So we're going to do what we have to do. And he wasn't like zealous about it, but he was very much like, where are the bad guys? Point me in their direction.
Mm-hmm.
When that was over, what's he got?
Right.
And you find that very often people who have a strongly red-white alignment, when the goal is reached or the strife is over, and either freedom is achieved for the unfree or peace is found for those without peace, when the struggle is over, they tend to settle in and find another color. That kind of helps define them, that centers them. 9 times out of 10, I feel like it's green in fantasy. Like, they kind of like the war is over and then they just kind of go and meditate and grow out a big fucking beard and just kind of get zen for a little while. That's pretty much what happens to Kellen. He doesn't grow a big beard. He's a half elf. Facial hair doesn't grow very thick.
Right.
Chin strap at best. Like, it's the best he's got. But, you know, finding a new family that he grew close to and was able to kind of settle in, find a place that he could call home, a place where he was centered, a place where he was accepted, and the world just kind of grew around him and didn't necessarily always need his help. Um, was a little bit disorienting at first,
I'm sure.
but also like an opportunity for him to grow and discover himself, become more intuitive towards the self, instead of always being like, I'm the good guy, I have to go do stuff, and not really focusing on his own needs. This is an opportunity for him to sit down and realize who he was and who he wanted to be, and kind of grew into this newfound family. Settling into a place that is surrounded entirely by nature, which is typically a thing that Green is very fascinated in, probably helped, but I think that green ends up being the third color that he adopts later in life when the war is over. So my final assessment on that, Kellen, red, white, green for sure. Interestingly enough, also that's me.
Yeah.
I am also red, white, green. I'm more white than red, and I'm probably a little more green than red too.
Yeah.
But same like general jumble of ideas, and different snapshots. I think Kellen is the character that ultimately has the most of like my id, like the very surface personality of me kind of goes into him a little bit more. So I think that's where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So Kellen out of the way, we go into our next third three color character.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll talk about Raffi.
Raffi!
So for those of you who don't already know, Raffi is the father of Holly,
Mm-hmm.
Hannah's first character, the Ranger, who she played in our first campaign. Raffi is also a Ranger, though in the later part of our campaign, he did end up multi-classing a little bit into Barbarian,
Mm-hmm.
training with one of his longtime friend and companions, who is also a very talented warrior barbarian. Raffi is very much the wise, calm leader of men type. He's always very prepared. He is sort of like the group dad, doing his best to try to present wisdom and be there for the people who seem to be struggling the most. Um, Arguably the most understanding of any member of the group, always willing to kind of hear people out, even when other people in the group were like, "You're kind of on your bullshit."
Right.
Raffi was the person who would listen and kind of almost inherently get where they were coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it comes down to it, he was probably also one of the easiest to pick up on.
Yeah.
At least for the first two colors. Um, he's the group dad.
Yeah.
He's very focused on making sure that everybody is in harmony with each other, that people can always, he's available and that people can always come to him.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to it, what he wants more than anything is for the group and for the people he's trying to protect to be at peace and harmony, to protect his family, and to be a figure that people can turn to in their time of need, especially when they are struggling most. That is a very white green trait.
Mm-hmm.
I think with his status as the leader of Calcala,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of establishing his position as someone who like is willing to throw himself into danger to protect his community, to keep them safe from the monsters that lie on the outskirts of the village, and to put himself in harm's way to protect his children at virtually any cost to himself, means he leans more white than green.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're both particularly strong in him.
Right.
Those were easy. The third color, well, I decided very much that he's not ambitious in the sense that he has a particular goal that he is willing to stop at nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
There are things he wants to keep secret.
Right.
There are things he wants to protect. There are things he doesn't want bad to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not the type of person who's going to, like, you know, cut his own wrist to save his face,
Mm-hmm.
He's not the kind of person who's willing to take dangerous risks to achieve some big lofty goal. He's kind of content with the world as it is, as long as he's able to keep the people that he wants to protect safe from the dangerous parts.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not black.
No.
And he's not particularly...
If you said he was, I would have fought you on it.
No, yeah, he's absolutely not. He's not a particularly, passion-driven character.
Mm-hmm.
There are things he is passionate about.
Right.
But he's not driven or motivated by his passions. His passions are things that he enjoys and things that he cares for, but he protects them in his own way. He doesn't kind of, follow them wildly.
Right.
Not particularly red. But if there's anything that we noticed more about Raffi throughout the entirety of our campaign, it was his ability to constantly be innovating and improvising.
Mm-hmm.
He was someone who learned and adapted to his environment. He, when we found out that there was going to be a vampire that was frequenting the church we were trying to protect,
mm-hmm.
It was 10 seconds later, he was hanging garlic from the windows, carving steaks, fucking holy watering the windowsills.
Oh, yeah, he had that church covered.
Yep, closing all the doors and making sure nobody let anybody in. He was ready. He was on it.
Giving briefings to all the religious people inside.
Exactly. When he realized that when his hands were bound, he wouldn't have a great way to get himself out of situations. And also, if he was caught off guard, it would be difficult for him to mount an effective surprise attack. He bought boots with fucking knives hidden in them so that he'd get himself out of the situation. He was the type of person who prepared ahead of time to solve problems that could come up in the future. He thought, he planned, he adapted, and he improvised.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the traits of someone who is very blue.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and the thing is, that's traits and not necessarily motivation, so it's not for sure a case for blue.
I mean, they drove things he did.
But that's the thing, is that when it came down to it, someone who is a planner isn't necessarily always blue. But I think he planned because planning and attempting to adapt to his environment was the way that he prepared himself to be more readily able to solve his problems. He achieved his goals by always being prepared for whatever lied around the corner and trying to make sure he was ready for any inevitability. He did not like to be caught off guard.
Yeah.
And rarely was he because he was so thorough.
I can't really think of a time he was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think that when it comes down to, and also just the very concept of adaptation, not necessarily rebelling against what's happening in the natural world, but realizing that what's happening is an inevitability and that you have to adapt to it by solving the problems around you. That's a very green-blue trait too. So when it comes down to it, I think he's we call it Bant, but white, green, blue. That 3-color assortment. It fits him perfectly. There's actually a character in Magic that I think would remind you of him a whole lot that is those colors. I'll talk about that after the podcast. It's not important now. But one of my personal favorite characters, and I think reminds me of him a whole lot. Okay. He had a giant pet lion, armored lion, so he was cool.
Raffi, oddly enough, was one of the rangers I have that doesn't have a companion of any real kind.
Right.
He owned animals, but none that were combat creatures. He didn't bring any of them onto the battlefield with him.
Right, yeah, he just had, pets.
Yeah, at home he, probably had, a horse and,
Yeah.
There's no way that he, didn't have a family animal for us at some point.
Oh, of course.
But,
a pet, fox or a dog or something.
Something like that. But he never had, a Kurumaru.
Right. Yeah, not a giant attack direwolf that was trained for battle. But still, he liked animals, so that was and he got along well with animals. It's a ranger thing. The other thing that I thought was very blue for him too was realizing that he needed to tap into the potential of his rage and his combat strength, and so realizing I need to be prepared to harden my body and get into the fight if I need to. So choosing to train as a barbarian was not a very Like, that's a trait that someone who's like, I need to plan ahead for an eventual situation. And sometimes that situation means I just need to lose myself and drop into the fight.
Right.
And that, like, he took
Yeah, at the very end,
barbarian
he took
training.
2 levels of barbarian, and while I, and potentially he, was hesitant to take them just because it's like, they don't really fit his aesthetic exactly.
Yeah, like, he's not a particularly, like, passion-driven person, so becoming a raging warrior was a little odd.
But he kind of had to if he wasn't gonna totally eat it in that final fight.
Right. Yeah, he was also like a man getting on at his age. He was like a dad in his mid 40s
Mm-hmm.
and was like starting to dwindle past the peak. Like he was in his
Yeah.
prime, but like on the downturn. And he's like, if I want to keep up with like, we're gonna have to fight a god and her cults.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to be ready to like just absolutely get into it if I
Yeah.
need to,
I
and
don't
I
want this
can't
to
do
be
it.
where my prime ends. So how
Right.
about we prepare for
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. He prepared to keep himself alive, and that's adapting to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's for sure. I think that's where Raffi sits. Um, the next one we're going to go with, although technically not the character that was the third character that was played by Sean for the longest, a character that I think fits the upcoming aesthetic. We're going to talk about Petra.
Oh,
We're going to
Petra.
save Sven for after. We're going to talk about Petra now.
Okay.
Petra is the halfling rogue who was good friends with our dear dwarven friend Steve Lundquist for
Mm-hmm.
most of his life. Former friends in the military, grew up together, spent time together in Lonelywood, the village or the town in Icewind Dale that Lundquist comes from.
She didn't originally come from there.
Well, she didn't originally come from there, but she was a part of their military after a while.
She was sentenced to be there by a court.
Right.
She used to be a thief.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that plays into this too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, she was definitely someone who like she doesn't really have a place necessarily that she felt like she fit into the world. She was orphaned at a young age, if I'm correct.
Pretty much a birth.
Yeah. So very early on was orphaned. Um, kind of had to, besides like being taken care of as a very small child by people who would take her in, she pretty much had to fend for herself for most of her life, which is what got her into like thievery and stealing
Mm-hmm.
and rogue work. She eventually, in order to make some money, realized she was particularly sneaky and particularly talented with a blade.
Well, it didn't help. Well, I mean, it did help for her that she had Aragonasi descendant that she didn't actually take
True.
any powers from. She just was like, she had pale white skin,
Mm.
pale blue eyes, white hair with only these little blue streaks. And so she's like, if I just like shroud myself in a sheet, I look like a ghost. And so she would pretend
Oh
she was a,
yeah.
yeah, she'd pretend she was a ghost. She'd break into people's houses, take a little bit of money and food, and get.
Right. And she would she was resourceful. Her goal was just to do what she needed to do to survive. Um and sometime like she didn't really want to hurt people, but she did find that if she needed to defend herself, she was quite talented. I mean, she was trained as an assassin at one
Yes.
point. So when worse comes to worse, if there was someone who was a threat that she knew like that was dangerous and that she could take down and get something out of it, she'd do it, and she was good at it.
Well, because that kind of came from that whole thing in the beginning too. Is she would dress as a ghost, and that's because that's what she would use as a defense. If people saw her,
Right.
then they'd be like, "Oh, that couldn't have been a person. That was a ghost for sure." But like she was already good at getting in and getting out without
Yep.
anyone seeing her.
Exactly.
It was just one person in particular that, when she wasn't trained as an assassin, that saw her, and then the jig was up, and she got sentenced and sent to work in the military in Lonelywood.
Yep.
And then I'm assuming she got trained there.
Yeah, most. I mean, like she had all the necessary skills to be a scout. Especially in there, like like in the frozen fields and in the mountains nearby. Like she had all the skills she needed to be quiet and blend in with her surroundings. She was pale, easy to get lost amongst the snows and the cold
Pale
winds.
little.
Yeah, absolutely. So she was quite talented at that. When it comes down to it, she was, I mean, before she met Lundquist, but also afterwards, but in a different way. She's always been a scrapper.
Mm-hmm.
She's the type of person that, she's willing to do whatever she has to do in order to survive. She is constantly looking for, like, not necessarily like there's an element of ambition to her, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not like that couldn't really kick in. Like she always had a drive to move above her station to become like better and stronger than where she was at. But right now, and for most of her life, the only thing on her mind was, how do I get my next meal? How do I keep shelter over my head? How do I protect myself?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do? And that those can be black traits, but they are also, I think, much more so in her case, very green traits.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's all about instinct and intuition and doing what she needs to do to survive in her own version of nature, really. I mean, she didn't live in the woods, but she lived on the lawless city streets and she had no one to protect her. She
Mm-hmm.
had to rely on only herself. And it was very much like I'm the hunter and the other people have the prey.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to do whatever I have to do to take what I can get. Green, again, also having a strong connection to the ideas of family and tradition. She always admired those things that she never quite really had.
Mm-hmm.
Always wanted a family, always wanted to be able to just kind of settle down and be happy. So when I think it comes down to it, her primary color, probably green.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as for her secondary color,
Mm-hmm.
I really do think she's black aligned.
It's not unthinkable.
Yeah. And like I think it's a very because like a lot of time like black gets a bad rap for being like, oh, they're like aggressive. They're like yeah,
Selfish
they're
or
selfish,
mean.
they're cruel, they're capricious, they're rude. And it does happen sometimes. It's more likely to happen with the emotions that are
Self-serving.
self-centered as opposed to selfless,
Mm-hmm.
like some of the other colors can be or think they are.
Mm-hmm.
um, but when it comes down to it, for her, she wasn't happy settling with the mediocrity that she had to live through. When she got an opportunity to make something better for herself, she would always do whatever it took to grab it. Sometimes that meant living a really, really hard life for a really long period of time, but you have to get through that to get to the good parts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sympatheticness to her. There's an understanding that like struggle for long enough breeds success if you're willing to work hard and put your best foot forward.
Mm-hmm.
And she really exemplified that. She's like, I mean, she was like everyone in the group's best friend. Like everybody
Yeah.
loved Petra. There was no like it was very hard to not like Petra.
That girl, like, that's the thing too, is because I'm thinking, even like, she took it upon herself at a point. I don't know how many times we talked about me killing Kylia or Kylia. Oh my
Kylia,
god,
Halia.
Halia.
That's a Freudian slip. That'll stay in there for
Woo!
you, Ryan.
Kylia. Oh. Uh,
You okay?
what's her fucking name?
Halia
Halia
Thornton,
Thornton.
your
That's it.
greatest hated
Yeah, my
rival, the
greatest
enemy of
enemy.
the previous campaign. Yeah,
Um,
that one.
Holly went to go and kill her. We did talk about this in the last one.
Yes.
She basically followed her into an alley and she killed her. But it wasn't as easy as just that. Like, she obviously fought back and she had people to help her.
Yeah.
Um, and Petra, that fucking golden god,
Yeah.
she followed me.
It's important to mention that all of this happened 3 weeks after Petra had just given birth to
Yes, she
twins.
had just had children,
Yeah.
multiple,
She had
and
she had twin children 3 weeks before this.
and followed me, one of the sneakiest fuckers in this entire party, which I was sneaking because I was following
Yeah, you were tailing her, absolutely.
Halia, and she she waited until she saw that I was maybe gonna be in danger, and then she fucking helped me kill the bitch. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god!
Yep.
Like,
Mama don't play.
she was so good. Like, she didn't even question it. I don't think
Yeah.
she had any real context as
Oh
to
yeah.
who Halia was or why I was
Yeah.
trying to kill her or what was
Right.
happening. She was just like, she's trying to kill this woman.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It was for her. It's like it's all instinct. Like like, and that's where that green really kicks in. Is Petra's just like, I know Holly. I understand Holly on a deep and intrinsic level because Petra, if there's anything, it's that she just like almost to a similar degree that Raffi does. She
Mm-hmm.
just gets people,
Mm-hmm.
and so she's like, I know that Holly's not trying to do anything to hurt people. I know she's good. I know she's on the side of right, and like she's made mistakes, but I know that her heart is in the right place, and she's following this person, and a fight has broken out, and she is now shooting to kill this person. Yeah, like that person's bad.
Yeah.
I don't need to know the particular situation. I know, like, that's my girl. She's getting hurt. I'm stabbing a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, it's done. It's over.
And honestly, without
I don't
Petra,
need to know more. That's it. That's all I need.
without Petra helping me, I might not have been able to pull it
Yeah, the
off.
poison that was on Halia's sword, specifically because she was trying to get you to tail her so she could kill you in a back alley.
Yep.
That poison, if that had hit you one or two more times than it did, which it could have if she had an extra turn without Petra's help, could have absolutely wiped you off the map, and then you'd be like, dying alone in a back alley somewhere. That might have been it.
Yeah. God.
Yeah. If the fucking, and like, not to mention that, like, and you didn't know this because this is behind the scenes stuff.
Uh-huh.
The mage that she was traveling with, she had intended to maybe try to get you out of the deal because she had a rival with you. She wanted to kill you.
Yeah.
And just before we had that council meeting where she tried to pull a fast one and like
Mhm.
get and like kill people in the room, she was hoping to also get you.
Yeah.
So that mage had a very particular spell prepared that day that she hoped to use on you if she got you.
Mm-hmm.
Soul jar.
She's gonna put my soul in a
Yeah,
jar?
she was going to soul trap Holly and then leave her body in a ditch somewhere, carry the soul off to fuck knows where, and then just do whatever she wanted with that shit.
Right.
And Petra was just like, nope. Not today. Petra fucking jumped out from behind a barrel and stabbed her in the ankles a couple of times. She fucking went down with your help. Yeah, she did. She had an opportunity to stab you once with the poison. She might have killed you if she got you more, but Petra didn't let it happen.
Yep. She even she tried to use Petra as a bargaining chip. She like got her hands on Petra.
Yeah, and like tried to grab her and like was gonna kill her or
try to kill her. Well, she was gonna try and kill her, but she's like, don't like. She's like, put down the weapon or I'm gonna kill her, and I just shot her in the face and then she was dead.
Yeah, yeah, because Petra's just like, I'm fast, like it's fine. She fucking stabs me, whatever. Like I'll just move, I'll just wiggle, like I'm real quick.
She's small.
Yep.
But she's fucking fierce.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like that's the thing. Is like a very small package, but she has like the fucking ferocity of a raging mother bear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like she's like
It's the only reason she's the one that can deal with fucking Lundquist 24/7.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she has patience of a saint, like anger of a raging bear.
But anyway, so she's black green.
Black green, and the last one is definitely blue.
Black green blue.
Yeah, she's black green blue. That's we call it Sultai.
Mm-hmm.
That's a color combination in the game of Magic. Like it's a group that is those colors. But
she was able to smart her own way out of a fucking like band of orcs trying to gang up on her.
And also like the intelligence on top of that. But like blue doesn't necessarily have to be intelligence. For her, it's all about like blue is like of all the colors, it is the one that is most likely to believe in the concept or like internalize the concept of like tabula rasa. Like that everyone is born a blank slate and that it is up to you to determine what you do with that slate. That there's nothing that is off limits to you. Everyone has the potential to be anything as long as they work hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
Petra embodies that. Petra is the kind of person who like started off at the absolute bottom of the totem pole. I am an orphan in the middle of nowhere and I have no one to rely on but myself.
Mm-hmm.
And she found a way to solve her problems and kept moving up and up and up. She was always looking ahead, always trying to improve her lot in life, always trying to get the better of a bad deal.
Fucking look where she is now.
And now she's literally like the leader of one of the 10 towns. In our version of the campaign, I understand that's not always the case, but she's the leader of an entire town in the 10 towns and one of the like most important and influential members on a council meant to govern Icewind Dale, which is like a legacy,
Isn't she the only person in our campaign's history anyway to reunite the 10 towns?
Not the only person in the history, but the
Well,
only person in like modern
recent
recorded
history.
history. Yeah, like last like hundreds of years, the towns have always like been separate and not really like working together, and they still struggle to do so. But
Right.
like they come to agreement on many things now with her wisdom and her guidance, and she rose to that position by like
Taking
take
it tooth and nail.
yeah, taking no breaks and fighting for absolutely everything and earning absolutely everything she fought for in her life. Yeah, it is extremely green, black, blue. In the way that she approaches life, she's got a very like straightforward, like simple philosophy. Bites tooth and nail for everything, and is always looking forward, never backwards. Always trying to improve herself and the life of the people she cares about.
She's the dog that used to live in the pound and now he lives in the White House.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's a great example. But yeah, so that's Petra, the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful angel she is. And now we have our fourth and final of the three color characters in this little lineup. We're talking about Satanta the
Oh,
Hound.
Satanta. You'd
Uh,
think he wouldn't be as dynamic.
um, and that's the thing is that like he seems like a very very simple character,
Mm-hmm.
but there is more complexity to him than you would think. Um, first and foremost, he's so green.
Yeah.
Like he just like he's a very simple, straightforward warrior man from the woods. He found a family in Raffi who was his trainer and mentor and who taught him how to fight like more formally while he had his magically enhanced like fey touched brute strength that he had been given to build himself. And when it came down to it, he was just kind of like one with the world around him. Very simple, very straightforward, very
Mm-hmm.
easygoing. Um, he also was very motivated by wanting to be the strongest and showing his strength, and he was boisterous and puffed out his chest and spoke very loudly and with great strength. And that's like the kinds of traits that you see in someone who's very red aligned. He felt
Arm wrestling giants.
yeah, he saw a giant and he's just like, I have to fight it. But it's rude to just like attack your friends. So we're gonna arm wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what and it was like for Satanta, it wasn't like a can we do this? It was very much like we must do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the kind of person who like he feels something and then it has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
He is motivated and almost in some ways like
Respectfully impulsive.
yeah, he is pushed forward by his own passions and desires.
Mm-hmm.
Very green red traits. So I was going back and forth on those colors, but I also think one of the things that motivated Satanta the most out of any of the things that he did throughout our entire campaign was whenever he was like, "Yes, I've won. I'm the strongest. Now is there someone else strong enough to face me? Oh, I beat this powerful warrior. Ha, I'm great.
Mm-hmm.
Now I must fight a cloud giant. Ha, I beat the cloud giant. Next, a god is on my list. Like never satisfied with like being the strongest in the room. He always had to be stronger than the next thing beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, that constant state of like self improvement and one upsmanship is extremely blue. But also, when you roll it all together into one big package, it's all very simple things that make him these colors. But when you take that green, red, blue, and jam it all together into one thing, he's got the same color alignment as Goku. Satanta's like
I
he's
was
not
literally just thinking about that.
yeah, he's not literally Goku, but in a lot of ways, he's very similar to Goku from Dragon Ball Z.
Mm-hmm.
He is simple and straightforward. Just wants to live his happy life. He just wants to train and get stronger and hang out with his friends and take it easy. He feels something and he has to do it. He's very like tunnel vision, like, ooh, I want to do, ooh, what's this button do? Ooh, what's this button do? And very dedicated on constantly improving himself, even when he's already proven that he's the strongest person. There's always someone beyond, and he knows they're out there, and he has to prove it to them now too.
Right.
Never satisfied with success. There's no limit to success for him. And all that comes together to make someone who's teamer aligned or green, red, blue.
I've heard about that. That's me.
That's you. Yeah, you in real life are exactly that.
I was literally like, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I have the same alignment as Goku?
And Satanta. And in fact, I think maybe in that order. I think you are green, then red, then a little bit of blue. You have much less blue than either of them, but it's still present in you.
Right.
And you're very green. So green. To the point where sometimes I'm like, no, I have to do this thing because it's a responsibility. And you're just like, what? Like, you look at me like I have two heads. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And I'm like, no, but I have to do it even though I don't want to do it. And you're like, that is actually insane to me.
Well, because I'll even ask you why, and you're like, just because I have to. And I'm like, that's not a reason. Like, I'll do the exact same thing where if I don't want to do a thing, you'll go, well, you don't have to do it. And I'll be like, well, I told this person that I care about that I would.
Right.
So it's happening.
Right.
And that makes sense to me.
Right.
I made a promise to somebody. Like, if I told someone I don't give a fuck about I'm going to do something, then who cares if I do it or not?
Yeah.
I don't owe them anything.
I get it.
But, like, you don't even, you're just, I have to do it. Why? 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 Just don't.
Yeah.
Why? Just don't.
Because I'd feel guilty if I didn't, which is still not a reason.
It's not a reason.
It's very funny. But yeah, I mean, you line up in a lot of ways. I think that makes sense. It's your color combination too. So you're Satanta and I'm Kellen is basically what it comes down to.
I guess so.
Yeah, in some ways we're a little different. We have a little bit of differences, but a little jumbled.
I have been known to challenge people to arm wrestling competitions.
That is true. There you go.
Do I want to be better than the next person above me? Not really.
Yeah, that's where you're a lot less blue than others. There's little bits of you.
There's always going to be someone better than you, and I've made peace with that.
Yeah, that's very green. Yeah. So the next one, and I believe the final of our regular characters.
Regular Wyrmtamers?
Yeah, of regular. Well, besides Sven, but he kind of joined up afterwards.
Right.
The next one's Cyrano.
Oh, Cyrano.
Cyrano, the extremely tragic backstory having, very goofy, fun-loving, sweet-hearted, half-elven bard, wizard. Mostly wizard, but with a little bit of bard. He was the one who, if you remember from previous podcasts, all of his friends had died in an unfortunate attack, and he was stuck, kind of hanging out with their corpses while he was trapped underneath their rolling cart for several days, and ended up kind of manifesting their ghosts into his own reality, and used to talk to them even though they weren't there.
I mean, they were there.
But they were there. We just didn't know they were there.
Well, none of us really said they weren't there, except for maybe the first few times, because we're like, dude, nothing's there.
But then when he reanimated undead, and then their souls went into the zombies, and they kind of had a little bit of personality, it was like, oh, that's weird.
We're like, oh, no, they might be there.
Yeah, oh, geez, that's a little morbid. But he's like, yeah, I'm going to make them dance. Look, I made zombies, and they're doing Thriller.
Lots of dance parties with him and some zombies.
Oh, yeah. Well, zombies were really great because they could do Thriller really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to do dance moves when you're a zombie because people just move your hands.
At one point, somebody tricked him into making... Well, he made this whole thing underneath the wormhole on his own.
Oh, that sweethearted fool. Yeah, he had been gifted a sort of necropolis by a unknown benefactor who built it for him under his room.
Yeah.
And the necropolis had necromantic properties, and he was told that it would allow him to better research the reanimation of life into death, so he could bring his friends back to life. And he naively and excitedly accepted that.
Because he's really got the mentality of a 5-year-old. And
yeah, he reverted due to tragedy, which is very
right.
sad.
That wasn't an insult on him. That was just a fact.
Yes.
But one of the best things about it was that they had a place to keep bodies, and so he had some bodies, and most of the time he would just use like the center place for most rituals. He would just use it as a stage so that they could do dances.
Yeah.
And
Like he had a pentagram shaped magic circle he could do all sorts of bad shit with. And he was just like, look, I can make them do party dances and we can play board games.
right.
Like
But that was the best part too, because as soon as they found out what was happening with Cyrano, a few of us busted down there, and I was playing Asher at the time.
right.
And once we got the situation kind of under control, um, they're like talking with Cyrano about it, and he was like, "Well, this is the only way I can get my friends back." And Asher was just like, "Why don't you talk to a druid?"
Yeah, right.
And he's like, "Oh, huh?" He's like, "Talk to a druid. They can bring people back to life." And he's just like, "Oh."
I didn't think to ask.
We don't have any druids except for the druid we have.
Suna was so brilliant and yet so simple.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, if you had to take a wild guess at to what his first color would like his most biggest color, what do you think it would be?
I don't know. I want to say black just because of all the necromancy and bringing dead people back to life.
See, that's interesting because and I went so back and forth on this because black in the tradition of Magic the Gathering, like the card game, black is the color that's associated with necromancy because it's seen as like I'm willing to pay any cost, even the most morbid ones, to achieve my goal.
I mean, it's
Black,
kind of true, except for
yeah,
he probably wouldn't kill us.
right. But black
on purpose.
Black in that way is all about like the acquisition of power. Black understands that there is a finite amount of power in the world, that some people have it and other people
Cyrano
don't.
doesn't understand.
Black always wants to be on the top of that. He does not have the capacity to be wasting his time concerned about that shit. He's ambitious, but not in a black sense, I think. Like he's not ambitious.
Maybe.
I don't think he's black in the sense that he
He wanted power. He was literally like going after as much of a specific type of power as he could.
But he didn't want power.
He did though.
He wanted his friends back.
Yes, he wanted the power to bring his friends back.
Necromancy was the way he knew how to bring his friends back.
Yes.
And then the second that someone said, "Why don't you have a druid reincarnate them?" he was just like, "Oh." He wasn't in it for the power.
I didn't say it was easy. Yeah. I'm saying he was on a search for as much power as he could get to bring his friends back. I'm not saying that he was after like, mwahaha, I'm in charge power. I'm saying he was looking for an intense amount of power to bring his friends back, and he would do almost anything to get it. And not because he's like, I'll do anything, I'll kill anyone. He's just like, if someone's like, you could do this, he's like, yeah, you could do that. Mm-hmm. You could do that. Yes.
I don't know. I in a way, I see that you're right, but like, I don't know. I don't feel like that's why he did it. I don't feel like that was
exactly
his reason.
why he did it.
I don't think so. What more than anything, he loved and cared for his friends.
Yes.
And he was spontaneous and off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
And always trying to liven up the room because he thought that it would make people happy. He wanted to bring joy to the people that he cared about. And for a while, he wasn't even super focused on bringing his friends back necessarily because he knew he would get there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his newfound friends that he was trying to bond with, and these people that had grown to become close to him and that he cared about deeply.
Mm-hmm.
He is a man who is driven by his passions and by his feelings, but when it came down to it, he wasn't singularly focused on, I need to bring my friends back at any cost, because as soon as he started making new friends, he's just like, they'll help me, don't worry about it. And he was able to calm down and put it on the back burner. It didn't even come up till the end of the campaign. Everything you're saying makes super logical sense, but I think that when it came down to it, the way that he approached his problem solving, it wasn't black, it was red.
Mm-hmm.
He had a thing that he cared about a lot, but then he started to care about other things, and so his focus was scattered amongst all the things that he loved and enjoyed, and he was very chaotic and free-spirited and free-formed in the way that he approached problem solving. and those are very red traits. On top of that, he was very curious of other things and how they worked, and he always wanted to know little tidbits about like what's going on here. How can I make this work? Ooh, what can I do if I cast magic mouth here? What can I make it say? What do I make my little coin buddy do? He was like kind of almost a tinkerer in a lot of ways. Um, that sense of curiosity and wonderment and like exploration of the world, very red blue traits. I think he's red blue.
I don't know if he ever actually questioned, ooh, what can I make this do? He goes, I know exactly what I'm doing with this.
That's
like,
fair.
I don't think he was like, what can I make my magic mouth do? I think he's like, I know exactly what this magic mouth is going to say. I know exactly where I'm going to put it. And that's what he was going to do with magic mouth until he goes, ooh, you know what else I could do with magic mouth?
Interesting. Okay. So what are you thinking then?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm just saying, I don't know if you have his motivation straight, or maybe I don't, but the feelings I get off of him are very... He had a thing to do, and in the meantime, he was running around doing other things because he couldn't get what he wanted immediately.
I don't know.
Not that he didn't care about us, because he did. I remember very specifically there was a point in time where he told us that one of the things he really wanted to do more than, well, not more than anything, but like one of the things he wanted to do most part was to protect us and make sure what happened to his other friends didn't happen to us.
Right.
But which is why I threw in the beginning, I said that he would pretty much do anything to get his friends back, except for hurt us, because we were then his friends.
Right.
He's not going to kill us to try and get back other people, because then he's going to want to get us back.
He was almost potentially tricked into doing that.
Yeah.
But that's because he didn't know what was going on. He wouldn't have agreed to do it if he knew. That he was like helping a lich do weird shit.
Well, yeah, because that would have hurt us.
Right.
But
he didn't know that what the problem was. He was very innocent.
Yes. And that doesn't mean that if he wasn't offered things to bring his friends back, that he wouldn't immediately grasp them.
Right.
Unless he's told straight up, this is going to hurt some people.
That's fair. Huh. So we disagree on the blue.
Yeah, probably.
That's what we're saying. We disagree on the blue or the black. But we're pretty much right there on the red.
Yeah, red, at least.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right. So, I mean, hard to say exactly for certain then, because it seems like we have very different perspectives on Cyrano's motivations. But he's definitely red.
Yes.
Maybe red-blue, maybe red-black. I think your argument has some merit, and I'll want to look back on whatever stuff I have in our campaign and see if I can make a final decision on it. But I had him as red-blue.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're thinking red-black.
I mean, that or he could be red something else, but I don't think he's blue.
No, he's not green and he's not white.
I don't think he's blue.
I don't know. I kind of think he could be. I think his like childlike sense of wonder and curiosity plays into that a lot.
The thing is maybe it's just because that's a bad example. The only thing I could potentially scrounge up to think of why he might be blue is the tournament. And that might be more of a Ryan thing than a
But it's not even like
thing.
Yeah, but the thing is like blue isn't necessarily just like he planned so he's blue.
Well, no, but like that was when he really used his critical thinking to figure out exactly how he was going to take advantage of Sven, the barbarian he was supposed to fight one-on-one.
Right.
And make sure that he wasn't going to get beaten into a pulp and instead would actually come out on top.
Yeah, and I think that like him taking the time to really sit down and be like, what do I have at my disposal to be able to solve the problem in front of me, and really like nose to the grindstone thinking about it instead of just kind of reacting impulsively. I think those are the blue traits that we see in him. It's like that like taking the moment to really suss it out.
Right.
But I also feel like I don't know, like I think his pursuit of power to solve the problem before him. I think he was trying to solve a problem that was motivated by his emotions by using the blue method of like tirelessly seeking new ways to solve the problem. I don't think it was the black sense of like I will do whatever it takes.
I wasn't arguing that was a black trait.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, like, that's my perspective of why I think he was red-blue over red-black.
But also, those things that he did with his spells and, like, really trying, like, finagle them in specific ways and figure out how he could use them in smart ways. they never that was like a very rare occurrence.
Sure.
Lots of the times he already kind of like was like, this is what I do with my spell. Like
Yeah,
he
that
already
makes
had
sense.
it.
That's fair. Yeah, he's mostly red. I mean, like he's mostly impulse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Unless he could potentially be mono red, but that's a
I think there's an argument for that. But I feel like there's another color in there. I just don't think that we're on the same page of like which one that is.
we'll have to talk to Ryan about what his motivations actually are.
Yeah, maybe we'll get back to you in the comments. We'll chit chat with Ryan and see what he thinks about it, and we can get to a more final decision. But yeah, interesting.
Hmm.
I was expecting we'd get at least one controversial opinion on one of them, but Cyrano wasn't the one I was expecting. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Well, because I could deal with a lot of other explanations for them, but I could even accept the fact that yeah, sure, maybe he's not black, but I don't think he's blue. I
Hmm,
mean, he might be, I guess. If that's what Ryan says, then I'll take it. But
sure.
from what I've observed, I feel strongly about it.
Yeah, it's also like perspectives are very interesting. It's like a person, the way that a person like sees another individual's motivations say a lot about
Mm-hmm.
it. So yeah, it could just be we're looking at it from a very different angle.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Okay.
Ryan goes, he's white aligned, dude.
No, he's not. That I will not accept that. That's absolute bullshit. There's no way. Um, Ryan, if you're listening to this, do not you'll give me a heart attack. Um,
Ryan, do it. Like, find the most convincing way you can tell him that Cyrano is white aligned.
Jesus. Okay. So next and the final and latest joining member of the
Sven.
Wyrmtamer, that would be Sven, the half-orc barbarian
Piss
fighter.
baby.
He's not a piss baby.
He is.
He is a little bit of a doofus and very angry all the time. He was so we mentioned in a previous episode that Lundquist had been tricked by a powerful, insane mage to believe that the village that he was living in, everyone was actually an invading orc army, and he killed a lot of the people in the village, and they were actually his villagers and his family.
Mm-hmm.
In retaliation for that, they believed that the orcs were responsible for that because of some of the things he was shouting about slaying the orcs in the town. Um, and so they went off to the nearby orcish tribes and conducted a series of very violent raids against them, destroying a lot of their lands and people. And that ultimately orphaned Sven.
Mm-hmm.
And Sven's sister, who we never ended up finding, she was a character that was in his backstory, but she ended up running off and was involved with the cult. But you never found her.
Well, that sounds like a Sven problem to me.
Yeah. I mean, I know what happened to her, but that's
She dead?
maybe
Okay.
we'll have to see. Um, but basically, um, Sven always blamed Lundquist, realizing that it was because of what happened that they were framed for everything that was going on. And he blamed Lundquist's actions for the destruction of his tribe and his loved ones. And so he sought us out and promised that he would join our group because it would get him closer to Stig Lundquist so he could be the one to kill him someday.
Right.
Unfortunately, they ended up kind of becoming fair weather friends and seeing eye to eye, realizing that it was actually a Darrow mage that caused it all to happen. And Sven, at first, didn't really give a shit because Sven basically just does whatever Sven feels and doesn't really think too hard about anything. He just kind of
does whatever.
Yeah, he feels something and then reacts on it.
He also completely forgot about his grudge, not only because he kind of started getting along with Lundquist, but also because he started enjoying our company.
Right. So he just kind of he was like, all right, I don't feel that bad about this now. I'm good.
Yeah, he's like, whatever. I don't care if I'm an orphan or my sister is involved with the cult. I guess we'll take the cult down and I'll just hang out with
yeah, maybe I'll find her, and if I don't, then whatever. She fucked off already. It's fine. Out of sight, out of mind was kind of Sven's whole thing. So when it comes down to it, I really did think hard about this and put all of my all of the possibilities into the roster to kind of be what? How could he show traits of this? How could he show traits of that? And I really thought about it, and I came to the conclusion that Sven is red. And that's fucking it. He's just red. He is mono red. He's the only monocolored character in any of the parties. Um, he is wholly and unashamedly motivated by how he feels, and how he feels changes relatively constantly. He spent like 2 days hanging out with those people at that church to like the warrior of justice. He was just like, I'm chill now.
Yeah.
Like he fucking calmed down, and like he met a girl and he was like, she's kind of crazy, I dig that. And then she was like, hey, you need to like be a little bit more nice, and he's just like, you're pretty, so okay.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right.
He also only had that curse I put on him for like, I shrunk his dick inside his body with
Yeah.
a curse for like maybe a week tops.
Oh yeah.
And like all those things combined, he was like super chill after that.
Yeah, he just kind of mellowed out. He was like still like motivated by his rage because he tapped into his rage in order to fight more effectively. But for the most part, he just fucking hung out. Like he was just like, he's like, how am I feeling today? I'm gonna go cut down a tree. I'll go.
Not to mention, after the fucking war, him and that girl got married. And they had 13 kids, and he just like is a farmer now.
Yeah,
because he's like, I guess I like wheat.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, this is a good way to do it. He just, I think maybe later on in his life, like as a farmer, like we haven't really gotten to see a lot of him in the later life because he kind of like really only showed up for a small part of everything. But I think maybe he added more green later on in life. Maybe. But I think that like for his entire run through the Wyrmtamers, he was a mono red.
Either that, or he's the kind of guy that's just a farmer because it suited his fancy, and he's consistently getting tired of it and changing the crop that he makes. Like
that's probably more likely, honestly.
Like he's like, I like wheat, and then like after it grows, he's like, this stuff sucks. I'm gonna just chop it down, and then I'm doing potatoes.
Yeah, carrots.
And he's like,
now.
Potatoes are boring. I want to do like sunflowers, I guess. And he's like, I don't even know if these make food.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, oh, my kids are named after bread, so I think I gotta still do fucking wheat.
Yeah,
like,
I'll go back to wheat.
Yeah. Because I have kids named after different types of bread.
Yeah, all 13 children of his are named after bread in one way or another.
Each of them is some different kind of bread or like wheat byproduct. It's kind of hilarious in a weird way. There's a kid named Sourdough.
Yeah, he's got a avocado toast.
There is an avocado toast. Yeah, that was
his little half orc baby named Avocado Toast.
Yeah. Half orc with a little bit of elf.
Yeah. His wife is like a mix of a few different things.
Shayliana, yeah. She's half orc, half elf. Mm-hmm. So she's half orc, quarter human, quarter elf. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's a mixed bag.
Yeah,
and deals with a lot of his shit, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's a very interesting character. Very weird character, but interesting nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Didn't Holly shoot her? Shot her in the foot.
Yeah, she was possessed at the time.
She was possessed at the time.
Yeah. You shot her in the foot, and then that kind of slowed her down.
And then Melisana...
that quieted her down.
Melisana, did a ritual on her that, got the weird thing possessing her out of her body.
Yeah.
And then we killed it, and then she was chill. It was so funny. That was the quickest turnaround Holly's ever had on a person ever. She was...
Yeah, for sure.
She was sus on her hard, because she showed up at my fucking wedding reception.
Yeah, she's out of nowhere. And Finn's like, she's cute, so I kept her.
No, I was, not okay with her. And I had her, pinned by her throat against a building, and Sven wandered around.
Yeah.
And he was like, I kind of like her. And I was like, I don't like her. She's not allowed in the worm hall. In our guild hall, she's not allowed in. And so they both fell asleep in the fighting pit.
Yeah.
And so then she started freaking out. And Holly came out, and she was, really wigging. And she tried to, attack me or something. So I shot her in the foot to pin her down. And then the thing came out of her because of Melisana, because she heard us fighting.
Right.
And then we killed the thing, and then afterwards she's just like, oh, I'm actually, really nice. And Holly's like, I like her.
Yeah.
I like her now.
Yeah, she's cool. She's cool. I get it. Curses. Fuck
and
that.
Someone's like, can I bring her in the house now? And I was like, whatever.
Yeah. Is she allowed to come inside? Or is she still technically, a puppy and not
I was going to say, it's literally like Sven was trying to get a puppy, except it was a human person.
Right. It was an actual person. It's crazy. Oh, so there are the Wyrmtamers.
Yeah,
that's all of them. Some of them more complicated than others, but that's their collective. A little bit of a lot of red, a lot of red in this group. But that's kind of all of us. We're all a little bit like that in real life, I think.
A lot of red, a lot of green.
A lot of green. There's a lot of green too. Most of the green was your characters, and
A few of
and
yours.
few of mine, few of Sean's. Literally only one of Kyle's.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, none of...
Yeah, absolutely none of Ryan's characters are green. Ryan has no green characters at all.
Ryan doesn't strike me as a very green person.
Yeah, that's not super him. Yeah, and I think that makes sense. We tend to gravitate towards the things we know the best.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any black characters for that reason. I don't like
Ken.
black aligned. Jeez, we know what episode we're doing.
Yeah.
Don't get at me like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, with the last little bit of time that we have, I'd like to take a little 16-year time skip.
Oh, to our babies.
And jump ahead to the 5 children of the Wyrmtamers, who you were introduced to in another podcast, and we'll talk about their color alignments as they currently stand.
Mm-hmm.
These are still open to change because they are going on their adventure currently and experiencing things right now.
And changing.
And changing and growing as we go. But this is the current snapshot of where they are, still trapped in the Underdark. Having all the trauma of their personal life experiences.
Being the tragic children of famous heroes.
Legendary heroes who don't necessarily always make good parents just because they were famous.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I really appreciate about all of the people that made our Wyrmtamers, is that when we came time to do our sequel, and we came time to make kids.
Yeah.
No one was like, and they were amazing.
Yeah. Everyone was just like, yeah, I can really see where they would fuck up.
Yeah, everyone was like, and they were bad parents.
Yeah.
Well-intentioned, but not great parents.
Yeah.
Except for Asher, who was a good parent.
Asher was a good parent. Petra is a good parent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only
everyone else, you're on thin fucking ice.
Something about Ganassi just makes good parents for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Apparently,
is.
if they don't leave their kids, they're good parents.
Yeah, but the Ganassi always do for some reason. It's so weird. It's because if like all the Ganassi had reliable parents, they'd be way too powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. God said no.
Yeah, he even like took a little bit of a hiccup on Asher. He was like, yeah, no.
Yeah, your parents gotta
go. Not to say that they were all bad parents. It's just some of them were bad in particular ways, with too much time, not enough time.
Yes.
Yada yada. But anyway.
Absolutely. So, moving on to the final 5 to our kids. I'm going to start with Arya.
Okay.
Arya is again the daughter of Melisana and Luciano. She is a bard. She is a dancer and a swordswoman who kind of like tries her best to be a little bit good at everything. She's trained in as much as she can be trained in. A quick-footed warrior, a talented spellcaster, as knowledgeable as she can be, but also immensely overcautious to the point of inaction. Mostly, like, she feels very strongly about things, but she doesn't really know how to do those things. Because she always fears like she fears being like reprimanded for her action. Like
she's afraid of the results of her actions.
She constantly worries that if she does the wrong thing when she makes a decision and something bad happens, that everyone will hate her for making that decision instead of kind of like understanding the nuance of a situation. And that's kind of
I feel like she's also afraid that whenever, like, if she makes someone actually like dislike her, or like if her actions cause a negative reaction, that it'll be a negative reaction that can never be undone no matter what.
Yes, exactly. Which is why she tends to stand on the side of like, I'll let other people decide and then kind of pick the one I think is right. Like, she doesn't want to be the one to like make a suggestion, because that
puts all of the cards in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
And she can be blamed thereafter for it.
Yeah, she doesn't know what to do with them. Exactly. And I think for that very reason, one of the things she's most motivated to do is to try to create a sense of like unity and harmony within the group. She is the person who tries to be the voice of reason.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to, but not the voice of reason who steps forward, the voice of reason who afterwards, like once you've taken all the information in, you then turn around and say, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Or I think this person has a good point, but this person has a good point too. Let's talk about that, maybe meet in the middle. She's kind of like the group mediator,
Right.
in a sense. And that kind of behavior and motivation for problem solving is very white.
Yes.
I think she is extremely white aligned. I also think that her penchant for inaction and waiting to see what the different possible outcomes of the actions are before actually taking the step on an action, sometimes waiting too long to solve a problem and missing the opportunity entirely, is a very blue flaw that I think plays into aspects of her. So when it comes down to it, I think she's white and blue.
White blue.
I think she's white blue. However, she is starting to realize that following her passions and the things that she loves and care about, when it comes down to it, like there are things that like are starting to show her like, hey, some of my gut decisions about things are right, and I need to not worry about fucking things up all the time because people fuck up things all the time and it's okay. So it shouldn't be different for me. I just put a lot of pressure on myself. And as she's slowly starting to realize that, very slowly and very early, but at this point in the campaign, it's starting to happen. I think that she may be the kind of person who's more willing to follow her heart. So I see her eventually picking up red as a possible third color. But right now, I think she is white blue. We'll see how she turns out and if she shifts from there. But white blue, I think, makes the most sense for her. Definitely more white than blue, but there's blue elements in there.
Right.
Okay, so our next character, that's Ivy.
Ivy.
That's your very angry lady. The fire ganassi barbarian with a three-toned hair, red, white, and black. Not necessarily those colors in her alignment, but definitely in her hair. She is a barbarian who is tattooed nearly head to toe.
Oh, head to toe.
Oh yeah, fully head to toe. With the different depictions of some of her ancestors, whose spirit she can call upon in moments of great need to protect her and provide aid to her friends as well. She is fiery. She has been hurt by the world and lashes out at it whenever it rears its ugly head. She is protective, sometimes to a fault, willing to throw herself headlong into danger to prevent the anxiety and fear that comes along with losing a loved one. She has lost many. She has watched two of her closest friends be killed before her eyes. She has watched her father die for no reason in front of her, and she thinks it's her fault. If there's anything that she doesn't want to happen again, it's watching another loved one die. She can't handle it. She can't take it. And I think when it comes down to it, the color that most applies to her, she is motivated entirely by love. Like, does that make that?
Yes.
Yeah. She's motivated by love. She shows her love in a very aggressive way. But she's motivated by love. She wants nothing more than to protect the people she loves, and she will stop at nothing to protect them. And it's a very gut instinctual thing. She runs out headlong into danger, or screams at everyone to run away from danger if she doesn't think she can prevent it, because her number one goal is keeping the people she loves safe. She's motivated by passion. Love is an emotion, and those who are motivated by their emotions more strongly than anything else tend to be red. Red is also, it's the color of fire, so it kind of fits her perfectly.
It fits her good.
But also, she is the kind of person who is tireless in her pursuit of strength. And she pursues strength because the stronger she is, the more likely she is to be able to protect the people she cares about. She rushes forward in an attempt to continually improve herself, but she is improving herself for the purposes of she's improving herself from the purposes of following her personal goals, not for the purposes of like achieving strength for strength's sake. She thinks she's strong already. She doesn't need to be stronger because she just wants to be strong.
Right.
She needs to be stronger because she needs to protect.
Mhm.
She's stronger for a purpose, not stronger to get the edge on others.
Mhm.
And me and you had a conversation about this. You didn't kind of necessarily know that I was fishing for this,
Mhm.
but we had a conversation as to like, do we think, like, why do we think she continues to train and like improve herself and be better? And I was going back and forth on whether I thought she was blue or she
Mhm.
was black with that. And I think I settled after our conversation on blue.
Right.
Yeah. I think when it comes down to it, she is motivated for the sake of being able to have the tools and resources she needs. She's stronger. She grows stronger, not in a like Petra, I need to be always ready to like to do anything I need to do in a moment's notice. She is like seeks strength in a Raffi sort of way.
Mhm.
She takes after him in a lot of ways like that too. She's always like, if I have the right tool at my disposal in the moment I need it, I will be thankful that I worked so hard to get here.
Right.
She wants to always be prepared for whatever comes around the corner, and that is why she trains and that is why she works so hard.
Mhm.
That's a blue trait.
Right.
She's red and blue, but there's more.
Okay. Do you think she's 3 colors?
I do. I do think she's 3 colors, at least right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she is motivated by an instinctual drive
Mm-hmm.
that isn't always necessarily just emotional. I think she always has like a very much like hunter and the hunted kind of mentality about the threats that she's facing. Um, I think that she interacts with her environment very well and that she is comfortable in places of wild, untamed nature.
She understands the laws of nature, kill
She,
or be killed.
she understands the laws of nature and respects the laws of nature as much as she seeks to subvert them,
Mm-hmm.
more so than she respects the laws of any civilization. And that connected with how much she is like oriented around the idea of a family and maintaining a family,
Mm-hmm.
which are very green traits. I think that she really does end up green. There was a point in her life when I think that maybe she was red, blue, black,
Mm-hmm.
where, like, I think at her lowest point, like after Asher's death, when she was struggling to make sense of it all, and she was just angry and lashing out at the world, I think that at that point she just wanted to just, like, say fuck it and just, like tear the whole world apart to prevent anything bad from happening again.
Mm-hmm.
I think at her lowest points she was black instead of green.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that as she's gone on this adventure and as she started to settle into herself more, she started to like have an instinctual respect for the kind of chaos that happens in the world and is learning how to like thrive in it as opposed to feel a need to like fight it or destroy it constantly.
I
That's
think
very
we've had
green
this
trait.
conversation before where we thought she was uh green and red and green,
Yeah.
and then we said that after Ash's death, she probably would have been the green would have turned into black, and so
Yeah.
that's interesting because apparently now it's turning back to green.
Well, and I think that's what it was. Is it like because when we had you at one point take the color test.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
In her place.
yeah, in her place, like you were answering for the character instead of for you, and she came up as red, blue, black.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was correct because you took that like early on or just before the campaign started.
Right before.
Yeah, right before the campaign started, you took that. And I think that made sense for her at the time. But I think that like she is now starting to go kind of back to the perspective on life that she had before. Hardened by the experiences she's faced, but starting to be less like angry at the world, I think. Still a little bit, still plenty of healthy anger, healthy and unhealthy anger.
It's working its way out, but
Yeah.
she's not perfect yet,
Yeah.
nor will she ever really be.
Yeah.
It's a like a what do they call it? I'm gonna butcher it, like a kitsugi or whatever. The Japanese.
Oh, kintsugi.
Yeah.
When you you paint the gold or whatever
When you
to
like
put.
break something and you put it back together with gold.
Yeah, to like
The
make
cracks
it.
are still there, but
Yeah, but the cracks are still there, but it's one solid piece, and there's a beautiful new element to it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of like that. It's kind of like kintsugi. That's cool. That's really poignant. I like that. All right, so there's Ivy.
Yeah.
So now we move on to Miss Blair.
Oh,
Miss
Blair.
Blair Lundquist, daughter of Stieg and Petra Lundquist. She is a stout halfling.
She's the kid that Petra had before she helped me murder someone.
Not that.
Oh no, sorry,
that was the other set of twins. That was Ian Reese.
She had kids like right before the time skip, and then like right before the war. So
yes, yeah, she was pregnant before the.
Sorry,
the
fake news.
Adventure. That's okay. You're fine. Yeah, Petra had Blaze and Blair. Blaze
the
being
first
the
two.
son and Blair being the daughter, and Sean now plays Blair. She is a stout halfling.
Mm-hmm.
She is a ranger. She's a beastmaster who had found a deep growth, which is basically like a underdark cow companion that she has with her, and she also briefly dabbled with after rescuing or like protecting the artifacts from an old shrine of Marthamer Dwin, the dwarven god of travelers. Marthamer Dwin reached out to her, and she dabbled a little bit in the clerical arts, like sort of like kind of just like Lundquist, like finding
taking one level in cleric, just like her father.
Yeah, like a little bit of a touchstone with a god that she was close to. Petra is or Petra. Blair is brash. Blair is confident a lot of times to a fault. Blair is exactly the type of person to be like, "Don't worry, I got it," and then either go knock it out of the park or fucking fall flat on her face and be like, "Whoa, whoops."
Oops.
Yeah, like she's very like.
Well, maybe we should go again.
Yeah, she's very set in her ways. When she has an idea, she wants to just do it and go for it. And she senses things deep inside of her gut and acts on those gut feelings, feeling confident that she has everything she needs to know she's heading in the right direction.
Very ironic that Holly was the one who trained her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the two of them line up with that, I think, quite a bit. But what's interesting about it, honestly, is she like when it comes down to it, she shares both of the colors that Lundquist has.
Mm-hmm.
She is more centered by Petra's like survivalist, like kill or be killed. Climb up to what you think you to what you deserve, and don't settle for less kind of approach, which is a very very like green and either red and black approach, but kind of centered in green, where she gets from Petra. But Lundquist is also red green, so she draws elements from Lundquist in that way as well, and has both of those colors in her. Ironically, though, she was trained in the use of the crossbow by Holly, and she has the color alignment in the exact same order as Holly. I think she's green and red.
She's a little nature and a little nurture.
Yeah, little nature, a little nurture, a little nature, a little chaos. But she's very much the kind of person who just like whatever's on her mind, she says it. And if she does something the other one's like, "Man, you really shouldn't have done that," she's like, "Haha, whoopsie," and then just kind of moves on.
See, that's the thing though, is she is truly Lundquist's child, trained by Holly.
Yes.
Like she is pure, like she's a ball of nature that just goes, fuck it.
Yeah, she is stoic, strong-willed, and utterly unmoved by anything. Like you could fucking stab her in the kneecap and she'd be like, "Oh man, wow, that sucked."
She stabbed me in the hand.
Yeah.
I told her to. She didn't do it just randomly.
Right.
She stabbed me in the hand because we were trying to. There's a place where a knife wouldn't stab my hand.
Yeah, you were protected by some magical force, and you wanted to see how far it would go.
And so when we got out of that place, I was like, "Try and stab me, see if it'll still work." And she stabbed me through the hand, and she's just like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, she stabbed you in the hand and crit, so she accidentally broke the fucking knife handle off in your hand. You had a hunk of metal in your hand. She's like, "Ooh, whoa, that's bad."
Yeah, it wasn't like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry," like, "Oh my god, no," like, "Oh geez, like I didn't think that would actually hit you." It was just like shit.
Yeah, because like she knew already. She had all the information she needed. She didn't need to think about it extra hard. That's not. She doesn't really care about thinking extra hard. She knew you said stab her. You did that. Something bad happened. Well, that was the risk we took.
There was an option that would happen, and it did.
That's it. Like there doesn't need to be any extra fanfare
that's
about it.
That's why Ivy wasn't pissed about it. She's like, because I figured that might happen.
Yeah, she's very law of nature about it. I think she's green red because of that.
I don't doubt it.
Definitely in that order. Second to last, we have Noir.
Oh, Noir.
Noir, the half drow, half tiefling.
The white blue aligned.
You think she's white blue aligned?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Is she not?
No, she like absolutely fucking is.
Okay.
She so is. That's really good. And why do you think that? I'm curious.
Because she's always trying to improve, and she won't swear.
Which is
she swore once.
She swore twice. She swore in the other session too.
I don't remember if Kyle said that was in the thing.
No, there was one point where she said like something like "God's damned" or something like that, and I was like, oh, and he was just like, I'm like, okay, cool.
I just don't know if anyone responded because I don't know if anyone registered that as a swear.
Yeah, well, I think they still thought Kyle was talking, but at that point we were like in character, and it like made sense for Noir to say. I don't know if he said that exactly, but he said something was like "damned" or something like that, and I'm like, oh, okay. But it totally made sense in context for Noir to say it. So
anyway, sorry. Continue to introduce Noir. I didn't let you.
Yeah, that's okay. So Noir is Callista and Gorin, who is a renegade drow who had arrived on the surface that they met. He's a drow eldritch knight. Who used to be a pit fighter and who had lived formerly in the city of Menzoberranz and the capital city of Drow in the Sword Coast Underdark, directly below the surface. She is very much a being of like childlike wonder at the world around her. She is always curious about all sorts of interesting things that are happening around her. She's got a sharp eye and is constantly looking out around her for everything. She seeks sage wisdom from her master, who is an ethereal spirit that floats behind her and has dispensed wisdom to her and taught her the ways of martial arts and channeling ki for literally her entire life. She is fascinated by stories of heroes and can't wait to be a hero herself one day. She wants to save and protect people and bring peace to those who are deserving of peace, which on her list is pretty much anybody. All people deserve peace. Everyone is a good person if you just convince them to be good. Some people are just being bad because they don't know how to be good yet, and it's up to Noir to teach them.
Oh, God.
That is a very, very white trait. The idea that everyone in society, if they just worked together and tried really hard to be kind to one another, then there would be peace because no one would need to fight. Because there's, like, we'd all fight for fun because that's what we do. Like, she loves sparring, but, like, no one would need to fight this, like, a big, huge battle.
Right. No one would have to fight to the death.
Yeah, everyone could just have fun with it. Everyone could just like be on the same page as equals. And that's a very white trait. It's that same sort of heroic edge that Callista has, where she wants to be a hero that people look up to.
Right.
Noir is the same way, but she internalizes it much more, I think, than Callista does.
I think so.
The blue comes from her sense of childlike wonder and curiosity with everything in the world, as well as her desire to constantly rise above herself and continually prove that she can do more and do better. She is always trying to learn more, grow stronger, and do better by herself in order to achieve the goal of just being stronger. Like she does it for the purpose of not accumulating power, but accumulating the tools she needs to protect people.
Right.
And that kind of a purpose is a very white-blue trait. In that way, she is literally the same alignment as Arya, though I think Noir is probably going to stay firmly white-blue. I think there's other aspects of those colors that will creep in, but I think that's kind of where her personality lies.
Right.
Within those color frames and exploring different aspects of it, where Arya, I think, is going to kind of like fundamentally change a portion of herself as a coping mechanism for her trauma. Noir is going to kind of cope with it by becoming the best version of herself, I think. So they're taking wildly different paths, but right now they are kind of the same alignment. And I think that's why Noir kind of like gets Arya so well, and Arya kind of gets her so much. Like, they're different people, but they're coming from very similar places.
Right. They're different manifestations of those two colors.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Noir, which leaves us with one final character for this episode of the podcast.
Alrighty.
Miss Kylia Ironcloak. Kylia. Oh, Kylia. Kylia Ironcloak, the daughter of Unity and Lem Ironcloak. She is a tiefling who is also. Oh, we didn't mention, but Noir's a monk.
Oh yeah,
Noir is a monk, a Way of the Sun Soul monk. She channels the power of light through her body. Kylia is a mastermind rogue. She is always carefully calculating and plotting. She is doing everything that she can to try to use people's secrets and weaknesses against them and undermine her enemies, but also using her vast knowledge on a variety of different subjects and topics to inform her companions of how best to solve problems, allowing her to offer them assistance and help. She's a trained swordswoman, and she knows how to strike for the weak points. She's very much like a glass cannon kind of warrior. Get in, strike, and get out quickly.
Right.
She is the kind of person who likes to make the deciding blow. She doesn't like to stay in a fight for long. And all of these are traits of a crafty rogue, which she fits that bill with gusto. She is definitely a little bit more of a complicated character than I had originally expected her to be. I think that she plays into aspects of both her mother and her father's color traits.
Right.
And I do think that when it comes down to it, the color that she is most primarily is the color that the two of them share. And that would be black. Kylia's number one motivation is, how can I use the knowledge that I am seeking and the skills that I'm obtaining to be better than others. I can only ensure my own safety if I have a tool, a weapon, leverage against those who would potentially do me harm, and also those who probably won't do me harm, but you never know, so better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
She loves to collect secrets and knowledge and information to wield against those who would attempt to harm her, so that she's always safe from threats. And that kind of like meticulous plotting to ensure safety in a world where you can trust no one but yourself is a very black aligned trait. Really, when it comes down to it, the only people she trusts are herself and Noir, and that's probably it. And she's satisfied with that. As a matter of fact, she thinks that's the way the world works. You can't really trust anyone but yourself. You think you can, but can you really? And that's a very black trait, and I think she fits into that really well. Her penchant for gathering knowledge and secrets, however, not always necessarily a black trait.
Is she also black, blue, and red all over?
Almost. I don't think she's quite one of those. I don't think she's quite red.
Well, that was a pun.
Oh, because Unity was black, blue, and red all over. Very, very sneaky.
But also,
she's
black and blue. Black, blue, and then and her skin is red. Her skin
is red. That's true. But no, I don't think she's red. I don't think that she's particularly motivated by her passions. She's not someone who's gonna like.
I wasn't saying she was actually red.
No, I know, but I'm kind of making that point.
Okay.
She's definitely blue aligned. She likes to use secrets as a tool, gathering secrets and manipulating knowledge. If when it comes down to it, like in a very broad term, blue wants to be able to have all the tools it needs to solve any problem. That's its end goal. And new problems pop up all the time, so blue is often never satisfied, always seeking to continually improve because new problems are going to come up they couldn't prepare for. But when blue is fulfilled and actualized, it has omniscience. It knows and understands everything. That is Blue's ultimate final goal.
She wants to hold all the cards.
Black's ultimate final goal is being so powerful that no one else could possibly prevent you from meeting your personal goals and ambitions. In a word, Black wants to be omnipotent. It wants to be all powerful. So someone who is blue and black wants to be omnipotent and omniscient, all powerful and all knowing. Her end goal is, I want to hold all of the cards. I want to make sure that no one can stab me in the back. It would be impossible because I can see everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's her her overall goal, and the way that she tries to solve problems is having all the information she could possibly need. Those are traits of a very blue-black character. However, there is still an aspect, and it's creeping into her character, and it has been for a while, of trying to find a way to bring a sort of strange sense of harmony to the group.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes she loves to rib at people and she loves to mess with people. When it comes down to it, she realizes if everyone is fighting at their best, then even if I don't necessarily like these people, I don't like all of these people, but they have tools that I don't have, and they are useful tools that can help us survive. I can't achieve my goals if I'm dead, and I will die more easily if these people don't have my back. So she's been tapping a little bit into her father's sense of like noble responsibility and noblesse oblige,
Right.
to say, hey, sometimes you have to say something that maybe you wouldn't have said or act a certain way just so that people will learn to trust you and that people will feel comfortable in your presence. And maybe it's not who you want to be and maybe it's not what you want to do, but you do it because winning someone's trust is a valuable tool.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very white black approach, and I think she's playing a lot recently into Lem's white aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to it, I do think that she is ultimately black, blue, white, or the Esper alignment.
Okay.
I think that white can easily fade. I think that is a mantle that she has adopted recently, and it's been playing into a lot of her recent character decisions. But it's something that I think is potentially temporary or potentially permanent, depending on the direction the character goes. There's still a lot of room for her to change. But I think right now she's very three color, and the two three color characters I think are the characters that are going through the most like internal personal changes
Kylie and
at the
Ivy.
moment. Yeah. I think it makes sense. They're like basically trying on a new perspective to see if that helps them solve the traumas that they've been facing. Really.
Right.
So yeah. That would be our 5 current characters for the Out of the Abyss campaign, and that does bring us to the end of our second half of our little slice of color pie.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who find this kind of character development fascinating, I recommend searching Color Pie or Color Wheel of Magic. Just like type it into Google. There's a couple of very early options, but they have different articles on each of the individual colors that I've been reading a lot recently and in past years, and that I recommend looking at and getting a good sense of how you could place yourself. There's a color quiz on our 4th episode of our podcast. There's a link in that you guys can definitely go check out if you want to check out your own color and you haven't done that already. Just to kind of get a sense of how different people and characters in media interact with the world around them, and maybe do so in a way that's different from some of the other personality psychographs we have.
Mm-hmm.
I love this as a method over alignment, and I hope that maybe you'll consider using it in your campaigns too if you have a little bit more information about it. But yeah, so that's really my spiel on that. again, I want to say thank you all for listening, and we hope you enjoy this little podcast number. Maybe you'll be seeing more slices of color pie in the future.
Yeah, let us know what you like, and if you have any like different like not fandoms, but like different like groups of things you want analyzed, we could try and see if we can
Oh
work
yeah.
those in.
I would be super happy to. I love this kind of thing. It's like overanalyzing fictional characters is like my favorite thing. So please feel free to send them in the comments. But yeah, so as I guess that leaves us with only a quick little tease
Oh
for next
yeah,
week.
tease for next week.
How much do we want to tease next week's big one? Do we want to like keep it kind of vague still?
I, eh, just do what you feel is fine.
Okay. Um, what I will say is that for next week, um, if you are a fan or have been in your childhood a fan of the Pokemon series, you may want to stay tuned to this one. Last time we talked about Pokemon, we talked about creepy Pokedex entries.
Mm-hmm.
This time, we're going to delve into some more personal aspects of the Pokemon series and maybe help you get to know the two of us a little bit more by analyzing it that way. So, if you like a little personal dive into the Pokemon series, stay tuned for next week's podcast. And other than that, thank you for listening. We love you all very much. And have a good week.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.